Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala wa ba'd. Today's session we move on to another topic. In the former sessions we looked at Muhammad Hijab and his usage of philosophy in Dawa, Muhammad Hijab and his position in relation to the companions, and in relation to the first topic, Muhammad Hijab and his usage of the philosophical rhetoric of Ibn Sina. I highly recommend that the brothers and sisters return back to the extensive articles or series of articles that were written by our noble brother Abu Iyad Amjad Rafiq that clarify in detail that which he has fallen into from the misguided kalam and speech of Ibn Sina. In today's session, we look then at Muhammad Hijab and his utilization of the qawaid and the principles of Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimun. And that is, oftentimes we hear people saying that Fulan or such and such is ikhwani. And this statement is a statement that is a reference to him having a particular orientation, and that is that he follows the jama'ah or the group known as Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimin or the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood was an organization that was set up in the late 1920s, 1928, and was founded by Hassan al-Banna. And Hassan al-Banna was a relatively young individual at that time. He founded the organization in his early 20s. He was approximately 22 years old when he founded the organization, and it was initially targeted at the younger generation, though it spread across Egypt and other regions, and the ideology to this very day is in essence the ideology that most of, if not all of, the present day groups, particularly the present day groups and parties that have a particular political orientation, that it is the ideology of Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimin, whether it be the Bannawi form of Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimin, an attribution to Hassan al-Banna, or the Qutb orientation, an attribution to Sayyid Qutb, then most of the organizations, the groups, the jam'iyat and the jama'at that are present in our time, then they have an attribution to this group. And we'll look at very briefly something related to the affair of Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimin, why they set up, and what is the position of the people of knowledge in relation to them. As far as the position of the people of knowledge in relation to them, then there is no doubt, Ikhwan, and we can perhaps start out with that the people of knowledge and the great scholars of the Sunnah, they hold that they are from the deviated groups and parties. Yani Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimin, they are not considered from the people of Sunnah. They are not from Ahlul Sunnah. And that should be clear in our minds. Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimin are not from Ahlul Sunnah. First and foremost, in relation to the reason that Jama'atul Ikhwan was founded, Hassan al-Banna, he saw that since they claimed that the Khilafah Islamiyah in the early part of the 20th century, the early 1900s, that the Khilafah was lost, they say, that is, the Jama'atul Ikhwan Al-Muslimin, at the head of them, Hassan al-Banna, that the reason that the Jama'ah was established was to return the Khilafah. Yani, the idea was, since we've lost the Khilafah, we need now to collectively come together to return it. And that was the main goal of Hassan al-Banna with the establishment of this Jama'ah. And so Hassan al-Banna, in order to establish the Jama'ah, he looked at the Ummah and he saw that the Ummah is comprised of many different orientations, many different sets of belief, many different denominations. And so it is not possible for us to come together by looking at those differences and trying to work on them. Rather, his methodology revolved around overlooking the faults or the differences that we have. Overlooking the differences that we have. And so he established a qaida or a principle that the jama'ah, that the party works with and the group works with to this very day. And that is the well-known qaida or the well-known principle, نتعاون فيما اتفقنا عليه ويأذر بعضنا بعضا فيما اختلفنا فيه. That we cooperate upon what we agree upon and that we overlook each other in relation to what we disagree upon. And of course, Ikhwan, this methodology, it sounds good. Sounds like something that could work. Sounds like something that we could possibly utilize to return the Khilafah and to unite the ranks of the Muslims. We're not going to see eye to eye, but if we work with this principle, then perhaps we will at least come together, even if it is in body. But Allah Azza wa Jal, Ikhwan, this methodology, Allah Azza wa Jal has not given it and established it and given it tawfiq. Because it has been somewhere in the region of close to 100 years. And the Jama'ah has done nothing in establishing or come nowhere near to establishing any of the goals that the Jama'ah was established or that it was created to fulfill. And so there is no doubt that it is a failed party. But the organization still exists up until this very day. That you still have Al-Jama'ah, yani Jama'at Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimin in various parts of the Islamic world. In relation to Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimin, Hassan al-Banna, the founder of the Jama'ah then, when he formulated this principle that we cooperate upon, we agree on what we agree upon, and we excuse each other on what we disagree upon, of course, then putting the qaida, the principle, into practice, giving it its implementation, is going to now prove difficult. Because what is it exactly that we agree upon? And so it became the case that the only thing or the only unifying factor between us is La ilaha illallah. That was the principle that they worked with. So anyone who claims or says that they're Muslim, khalas, we will work with them. We'll unite with them, we'll come together. To the extent that they even united with the Rafida, Shia. Even with the Rafida, Shia. Because the goal was to unite the ranks of the Muslimin. And that is, therefore, what is known with the scholars as the Jama'at al-Tajmi'iyya. Ikhwan al-Muslimin is from them. Jama'at al-Tabligh is from them. The Jama'at al-Tajmi'iyya are those Jama'at or groups and parties that seek to do nothing but to unite the ranks of the Muslims. And so, their methodology usually has within it that which prevents differing. And so, as is the case, for example, with Jama'at al-Tabligh, because of the fact that their goals are to gather as many Muslims under their umbrella as possible, then you will see that they'll avoid those things that the Muslims have differed upon. And so when they speak, their speech revolves for the most part around Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, the belief of Allah Azza wa Jal, the belief in Allah Azza wa Jal and His Lordship, which is something that not even many of the disbelievers reject. You need to believe that Allah Azza wa Jal created, Allah sustains, that Allah Azza wa Jal will gives life and He will take life. The affairs of Rububiyyah are not rejected by even many of the kuffar. And so, on the basis of this belief, that we believe in the unity or the unifying nature of La ilaha illallah, then as long as you believe in La ilaha illallah, you can come under the banner of Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimin. And that, without doubt, Ikhwan, is extremely dangerous. The Prophet ﷺ informed us of the fact that this ummah will split into 73 sects. كُلُّهَا فِي النَّارِ إِلَّا وَاحِدًا. All of them in the hellfire, except one. How then are we going to unite with groups and parties that could well be, if they're not upon the Sunnah, from those who the Prophet ﷺ informed us of are going to be in the hellfire? And how are we going to encourage our shabab and encourage our youth to partake in unifying with individuals who could well be their methodology and their way and their path, the way and the path of the people of the hellfire. This deviation, Ikhwan, is not a joke. And it is not something that the Prophet ﷺ said but did not mean. It is a reality, and it is something that will come to fruition on the Day of Judgment. And so our goal is to escape the fire by any means. And the means that the Prophet ﷺ laid down is that we follow the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This, first and foremost, this group, Al-Ikhwan al-Muslimin, or this initial section of their belief, is, as we mentioned, present within the Jama'ah until this present day. Among the group, there were certain figures that arose from them. The well-known adib, the well-known linguist and speaker, eloquent speaker, Sayyid Qutb. Sayyid Qutb was from the main figures within Jama'at Al-Ikhwan al-Muslimin. Sayyid Qutb, though, he took the Jama'ah in a slightly different direction. Since he wrote many books, from them a tafsir of the Quran, which is filled with opinion and deviation and misguidance, and many other smaller books. But within his writings, we find a theme that is present within his writings. And in the Indo-Pak subcontinent, we find a similar individual, Abu al-Mawdudi, having a similar orientation. And that theme is based upon the fact that Sayyid Qutb, in many of his writings, since he was an individual who was influenced by a non-Muslim, an individual known as Alexis Carrel. And this individual was one who used to criticize Christendom, and he referred to them as being within barbarism. And so these writings were taken by Sayyid Qutb. He used to read them, and he imported some of the ideas of these non-Muslim thinkers into his works and his writings. And so he came up with a concept similar to this barbarism concept, and that is the concept of 21st century Jahiliyyah. That is, he said that the Ummah is in a state of Jahiliyyah, a state which is similar to pre-Islam, before the Prophet ﷺ was sent. And so, since the Ummah is in Jahiliyyah, he even went as far as to say that the masajid are not masajid in actuality, they're temples. It is a must that we return the right that has been taken from Allah in relation to rule and leadership by these tyrannic rulers, these tawaghit, and we must return that right back to Allah. And so his orientation was around concentrating upon the rulers, the leaders, and the fact that the people are now in a 20th or 21st century Jahiliyyah. And so the orientation of Sayyid Qutb was in relation to the leaders. He was very anti-establishment in his orientation, while Hassan al-Banna focused upon the unity of the Muslims regardless of what they were upon, uniting them upon La ilaha illallah, which is a fallacy in actuality because we don't even agree upon the meaning of La ilaha illallah. In any case, whenever we speak then about Jama'atul Ikhwan or refer to an individual as being ikhwani, then it is an indication to the fact that he has one of these orientations, or both of them, as the case very well may be. That he believes that we should just come together as people of Islam, as individuals attributing themselves to the Ummah, and or they should fight against and work with removing and replacing the rulers and the leaders, because our khilafah is not going to be re-established until we get rid of these tawaghit and these leaders who have established themselves as gods besides Allah, who carry out all types of tyranny. then we should remove and strip the right from them and give it back to Allah Azza wa Jal. And as far as our method of dealing with and interacting with the Muslims in general, then نتعاون فيما اتفقنا عليه ويأذر بعضنا بعضا فيما اختلفنا فيه. That we cooperate upon what we agree upon and we overlook each other in what we disagree upon. That, in a brief nutshell, is the approach of Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimin. And it is an approach which, for any individual who's acquainted with the methodology of the Sahaba, anyone who's acquainted with the methodology of Ahlul Sunnah will know that it is, or it has within it, batil and falsehood on so many levels. As far as uniting, then Allah Azza wa Jal has commanded us, وَاعْتَسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Cling to the rope of Allah together and do not be divided. And scholars of tafsir have discussed the meaning of the rope of Allah. Some of them have said that the rope of Allah is the book and the Sunnah. Some have said the rope of Allah is Abu Bakr and Umar. And of course, these all come together with the methodology of Ahlul Sunnah, which is to cling to the book and the Sunnah with the understanding of the companions of this ummah, the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is the rope of Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah has commanded us to cling to that and not to cling to each other just on the basis of the fact that we believe in La ilaha illallah, regardless of how deviated we may be. This is not what we've been commanded with. We've mentioned previously the fact that the ummah will split. And the Prophet ﷺ has informed us of the fact that there will be ghuraba, there will be strangers. And these strangers, as he mentioned, بدأ الإسلام غريبا وسيعود غريبا كما بدأ فطوبى للغرباء. Islam began as something strange and it shall return to being something strange. So give glad tidings to the strangers. These strangers, the Prophet ﷺ described by saying, أناس صالحون قليل في أناس سوء كثير من يعصيهم أكثر ممن يطيعهم. He said that they are a small group of righteous individuals among a large group of wrongdoers. Those who agree with them and obey them are far, far less than those who disagree with them. And so the Prophet ﷺ described them as being a small group. In the words of Muhammad Hijab and his ilk, they would be referred to as a cult. Similarly, we see the attitude of the Salaf of this ummah in relation to the people of innovation. They understood that there was nothing that weakened this ummah more than accommodating the people of innovation, welcoming them and allowing them to transgress against the deen of Allah Azza wa Jalla. It is not our deen, ikhwan. It is Allah's deen. He revealed it upon Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he revealed it to be followed. The only thing that we need to do is learn what it is and follow it. But what we have among the people of innovation is we have them spreading in the ranks of the Muslimin falsehood in the guise of Islam. And this is what has weakened the ranks of the Muslims throughout time. When we see now people worshipping graves, what has caused them to leave worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal and turning their dua and attention to someone in a grave other than innovation? When we see individuals making tawaf around graves and slaughtering to graves, what has caused them to do so other than innovation? When we hear of individuals saying that there is nothing above the throne of Allah, negating Allah Azza wa Jal in totality, what has caused them to do that other than innovation? When we hear people saying that the Quran is incomplete and that there is a hidden imam who knows the unseen that will soon bring the rest of the Quran, and he will bring and take Abu Bakr and Umar from their graves and punish them, what is it that has caused people to hold these types of positions and beliefs other than innovation and bid'ah? And so the Salaf of this ummah, they fought against innovation, ikhwan, and they warned against it. أشد التحذير. Listen to the statement of Al-Imam Ibn Al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala. Al-Imam Ibn Al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions in Al-Madarij Al-Salikin, in volume 1 of Madarij Al-Salikin, he mentions rahimahullah ta'ala, ولهذا اشتد نكير السلف والأئمة لها وصاحوا بأهلها من أقطار الأرض وحذروا فتنتهم أشد التحذير وبالغوا في ذلك ما لم يبالغوا مثله في إنكار الفواحش والظلم والعدوان إذ مضرة البدعة وهضمها للدين ومنافاتها له أشد. He mentions, for that reason, the warning and the staunch warning of the Salaf and the great Imams for it was established. They raised their voices against its people, and against the people of innovation, from all of the areas of the earth. And they warned against his fitna with a staunch, strong warning. And they went to every extent in that regard, in a manner such that they did not warn, or in a manner in which they did not do for the fawahish, for the acts of lewdness and sin, and of dhulm and oppression. And they warned against bid'ah far worse than they warned against lewdness and oppression and sin. And we know how strong their warning was against those things. He said, because of the fact that madarratul bid'ah, that the harm of bid'ah and its destruction of the deen and its opposing the deen is far greater. That is without doubt the belief of Ahlul Sunnah. Al-Imam Ibn Battah, he mentioned in relation to the people of innovation and our attitude towards them, he said, وَلَا تُشَاوِرُوا أحدا من أهل البدع في دينك ولا ترافقه في سفرك وإن أمكنك أن تفارقه في جوارك. He said that we do not seek the consultation of anyone from the people of innovation in our deen, and we do not accompany them upon our journeys. And if it is possible for us and لا نقاربه في جوارك, if it is possible, then we would not go near to them, even as neighbors. He said, وَمِنَ السُنَّةِ مُجَانَبَةِ كُلِّ مَنْ اعْتَقَدَ شَيْئًا مِمَّا ذَكَرْنَاهُ وَهُجْرَانَهُ وَالْمَقْتِ لَهُ وَهُجْرَانَ مَنْ وَالَاهُ. He said that from the sunnah is to refrain from and stay away from those who have believed in any of the things that we have mentioned. And he mentioned a number of innovative practices, a number of innovative beliefs. He said, and boycotting them, and to have hatred for them, and to boycott the one who allies with them and aids them, وَذَبَّ عَنْهُ, and defends them. He said, وَإِنْ كَانَ الْفَاعِلُ لِذَلِكَ يُظْهِرُ السُّنَّةِ, even if the one who does so makes sunnah apparent. Yani what is apparent from him is that he's upon the sunnah. He makes sunnah apparent, but even if he does so, then him aiding the people of innovation, him not holding the stance of the Salaf of this ummah is something that would cause them to refrain from even that individual. Listen to the statement of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions in Majmu' al-Fatawa, وَيَجِبُ عُقُوبَةُ كُلُّ مَنْ انتسب إليهم أو ذب عنهم أو أثنى عليهم أو عظم كتبهم أو عرف بمساعدتهم ومعاونتهم أو كره الكلام فيهم أو أخذ يعتذر لهم بأن هذا الكلام لا يدري ما هو. He mentions it is compulsory to take to account and to punish and to discipline anyone who attributes himself to them, to the people of innovation, or defends them, or praises them, or extols their books, or is known to aid and support them, or dislikes that they should be spoken against, and begins to make excuses for them. And then he goes on to say, بل تجب عقوبة كل من عرفها لهم ولم يعاون على القيام عليهم. He said, in fact, it is compulsory to take to account anyone who knows their state and does not aid in standing against them. فإن القيام على هؤلاء من أعظم الواجبات لأنهم أفسدوا العقول والأديان على خلق من المشايخ والعلماء والملوك والأمراء وهم يسعون في الأرض فسادا ويصدون عن سبيل الله. He said, that is because of the fact that they corrupt the deen. Yani, to stand against him is from the greatest of the wajibat. That is because of the fact that they corrupt the minds and the intellects and the people's religion. And they have affected people of knowledge, mashayikh and ulama, and kings and rulers and leaders. And they strive in the earth, causing corruption. And they block from the path of Allah Azza wa Jal. This is the attitude of the Salaf of this ummah and the ulama who are upon the methodology and the position of the people of Sunnah and the Salaf, like Al-Imam Ibn Al-Qayyim and Imam Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. That was their position. What then about the position of the latter day scholars, or the scholars in our time? What did they hold? And in particular, Ikhwan, we want to look at the statement of the people of knowledge in relation to this methodology, the methodology of Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimin. This methodology of we should cooperate and we should overlook our differences. And we have this great enemy that's outside of us, and so we need to come together and put alone this foolishness and this differing that occurs among us. Listen to the statement of our ulama in relation to Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimin. Listen to here to the statement of Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala.
فنحن نقول لهم لقد مضى على دعوتكم قرابة قرن من الزمان وأنتم لا تزالون في مكانكم كما نقول نحن في سوريا هناك تعبير عسكري مكانك راوح.
The Sheikh, he mentioned that you have been operational for somewhere in the region of 100 years, nearly a century, and you have not ceased being, as we say here in the colloquial Syrian dialect, makanak rawih. He mentions here a statement that is said to the soldier, yani when the military leader, he commands his soldiers, he can either tell them to continue, to stop, or makanak rawih, yani jog on the spot or run on the spot.
يعني الضابط ضابط سرية لما يأمر الجيش بالسير بيقول إلى الأمام سير فبيمشوا على النظام العسكري ثم لما يريد أن يأمرهم بالوقوف بيقول مكانك قف لكن لما يريد أن لا يقفوا جامدين إنما متحركين فيقول مكانك راوح.
So then he explains that the commander, he will either tell the army to proceed, advance, or he'll tell them to stop, or if he wants to tell them to remain stationary but keep moving, then he'll tell them to jog on the spot or to run on the spot.
فهؤلاء يتقدمون ولا يتأخرون.
Not going forward or backwards.
هذا مثل الإخوان المسلمين.
And that is the example of the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, jogging on the spot. Are people who are jogging on the spot. Yani, appearing as though they're advancing, but in actuality they're just jogging on the spot. It's been 100 years, and this methodology has brought nothing from fruit.
ذلك لأنهم لا جاهدوا ولا تعلموا وعملوا.
He said that is because they haven't made any jihad, neither have they studied and learned and acted upon what they've studied and learned.
فهم متخلفون جهادا مخالفين لدعواهم وعلما وعملا.
So there are people who in actuality are backwards. They're backward in relation to jihad, which is in opposition to their da'wah. And since their da'wah was supposed to revolve around that. And in relation to knowledge and action, because they haven't embarked upon it.
أنهم لا علم عندهم وحسبهم أنهم ينكرون على من يدعو إلى اتباع الكتاب والسنة. And
it's sufficient that they speak ill of those who call to following the book and the Sunnah. And this is one of their trademarks, Ikhwan. Yani one of their hallmarks, that they speak ill of the people who call to the Kitab and the Sunnah. And they refer to them by all types of names and titles. And they refer to this as furqa, as splitting. Yani that these people of Salafiyah, they do nothing but cause splits, cause division. This is the attitude of the ikhwani. This is the attitude of the Ikhwan Al-Muslimun. And here in the West, they refer to them as cults.
دعوة إلى تفريق المسلمين وأنا أقول كلمة صريحة.
He said, and that is because they claim that they're upon this da'wah to splitting the Muslimin. And then the Sheikh, he says, and I'm going to say some straight words to you.
فعلا إن دعوتنا وهي دعوة الإسلام الحق هي تفرق.
He said, it is true. Our da'wah, and it is the true da'wah of Islam, it does divide. True.
لأن القرآن يفرق.
That is because the Quran divides and it causes a split.
ذلك لأنه يفرق بين الحق والباطل.
It divides and it causes a division between truth and falsehood.
فدعوتنا تفرق بين الحق والباطل.
And our da'wah, it causes a division between truth and falsehood. نعم.
بالتالي دعوتنا والتي هي دعوة الحق تفرق بين المحق وبين المبطل.
And so what follows from that is that it makes a difference between the person who is upon the haqq and the person who is upon falsehood.
وهكذا فعل الرسول عليه السلام.
And this is what the Prophet ﷺ did.
حينما جاء بدعوته كما يخبرنا التاريخ.
When he came with his da'wah, as history informs us,
بأن الأب حارب ابنه.
you'll find the father fighting against his son,
والابن حارب أباه.
and the son fighting against his father.
كل ذلك في سبيل التمسك بالإسلام الحق.
And this was all in the way of clinging to true Islam.
لا غرابة بأن تكون دعوة الحق في زماننا هذا كما كانت في الزمن الأول وفي الأزمان كلها.
Therefore, there is no strangeness that our da'wah in this time, as was the case in the past, and will always be the case,
مفرقة بين الحق والباطل وبين المحق والمبطل.
that it makes a difference between truth and falsehood, and the people of truth and the people of falsehood. SubhanAllah. This statement, Ikhwan, is one that if the Salafi truly understands it, if the Muslim truly understands it, then we will see the falsehood and the foolishness that comes from anyone who speaks ill of the people of Sunnah, in particular in the manner that we see the likes of Muhammad Hijab and his kind speaking against the people of Sunnah. This is nothing, Ikhwan, does not emanate except from the ikhwani, hizbi, the one who is affected and poisoned by the methodology or these methodologies of these jama'at al-tajmi'iyya. And then they claim that they're Salafi or Athari. Kif? Which part of you is Athari? We see nothing but philosophy from you. We see nothing but ta'an of Sahaba from you. We see nothing but clinging to ikhwani principles. We see nothing but waging war against the people of Sunnah, and you call yourself etheri after that? Cow. And so when we look then at some of the statements of Muhammad Hijab, we see clearly, in a manifest manner, that the man is nothing but an ikhwani, jald. His statements are 100% in accordance with the methodology of Al-Muslimun. And thus it is little wonder that our brothers have referred to him as Ikhwani, regardless of how many people want to get upset for him. It is little wonder, because he utters these principles and he manifests them in his Dawa. And it is clear from his statements that this is the methodology that he follows, not the methodology of the Salaf, barakallah fikum. Let's look at some of the statements of Muhammad Hijab. And in this statement here, he speaks ill of our noble brother Abu Khadija Abdul Wahid. And in speaking ill of him, and no doubt him speaking ill of him is nothing but praise for him, but him speaking ill of him, he makes manifest his methodology, and that his methodology is ikhwani.
And this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen, and obviously my khitab here, my words, my discourse is targeted specifically to Salafis, intolerant Salafis. I'm just going to be straightforward.
So here he speaks of intolerant Salafis. And what he means by intolerant Salafis are those who are intolerant with the people of innovation and bid'ah. And here he establishes the fact that he's upon the principles of Al-Ikhwan al-Muslimin.
Issuing fatwas, and not only issuing fatwas, but high-level fatwas that have far-reaching effects on people's lives.
Here he's speaking, again, about our brother Abu Khadija.
Like Tabdiya, for example, which he's done on me, which he's done on Abu Safiya, the CEO here, and he's done on... actually, the question is, who has he not done it on? And he's done it on everyone that I know of. So this individual, and it goes back to our principle now.
Now he explains why. What is the principle that has caused this tabdiya? Listen.
If this is the reason why he did it, is because we say that you should unite upon those things which we agree on, or for the maslahah of the Muslims.
MashaAllah. The reason is because we say, and he establishes, that we should unite upon the things that we agree on. Yani, he hasn't even changed the wording, Ikhwan. نتعاون فيما اتفقنا عليه ويأذر بعضنا بعضا فيما اختلفنا فيه. قاعدة إخوانية يعني واضحة. Clear principle of Ikhwan. Him and Abu Safiya.
Not saying that we change our beliefs, then why don't you make the tabdiya on the king? Why don't you make the tabdiya on them?
Not saying that we change our belief, he claims. The issue, though, is what is the belief of Muhammad Hijab? As we've said before, and we reiterate, Muhammad Hijab is nothing but Hatib al-Layl. And we're going to see as we go along more and more evidence of the fact that the man is nothing but Hatib al-Layl, nothing but a man that collects firewood by night. Listen to what he says about these intolerant Salafis.
And this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen, and obviously my khitab here, my words, my discourse is targeted specifically to Salafis, intolerant Salafis. I'm just going to be straightforward. I go intolerant. So intolerant to what? Intolerant to other opinions, and intolerant to other groups. Now, obviously, there's tolerance everywhere. There's intolerance everywhere as well. So it's not just within Salafism that.
So intolerant to what? Intolerant to other opinions, intolerant to other groups. Yani intolerant to Ahlul Bid'ah, basically. If you're intolerant to Ahlul Bid'ah, then this statement is for you.
We find this intolerance. We find intolerance within every subgroup, frankly, right? But my khitab in this...
So, in actuality, everybody has intolerance, but the only one he really has a problem with is us.
Video is about that. And on that note, I want to bring to your attention, I would say, one of the most despicable, intolerant individuals I've honestly ever come across.
And how hypocritical is this statement here. He speaks about our brother Abu Khadija, Hafidhahullah, and then in the same breath, he's speaking about tolerance. In the same breath, and listen to how he refers to him. And so, we see by his own admission that this man is clearly upon the methodology of Al-Ikhwan al-Muslimin. Ikhwan, what was it that the Prophet ﷺ commanded us when we see these groups and these parties and these callers to misguidance, as occurs in the hadith of Hudayfa, that you will see callers upon the doors of Jahannam, callers upon the gates of Jahannam. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned, whoever responds to them, then they will throw them into it. And whoever responds to them, they'll throw them into Jahannam. Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, he asked them, what should we do if we come across that? The Prophet ﷺ said that you should cling to the Imam of the Muslimin and their Imam of the Muslimin and their Jama'ah. And he cling to the Imam, the leaders of the Muslims. Cling to them. He said, so what if they have no Jama'ah and no Imam? As is the case here, for example, in England, in the West generally, with the Muslims. What was the advice of the Messenger? And it is elementary that we understand this. Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَاعْتَزِلْ تِلْكَ الْفِرَقْ كُلَّهَا. He said, then stay away from all of these groups. And don't misunderstand when we say stay away from all of these groups. Of course, other than the group that is upon the haqq. Other than the group who are clinging to the book and the sunnah with the understanding of the salaf of this ummah, the understanding of the companions. The Prophet ﷺ was addressing the companions. He was speaking to them. So you refrain from everyone. You people of sunnah, you people who have left upon this guidance, refrain from everyone. And the Prophet ﷺ, he emphasized this refraining. He said, وَلَوْ أَن تَعَضَّ بِأَصْلِ شَجَرَةٍ حَتَّى يُدْرِكُكَ الْمَوْتِ وَأَنْتَ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. Even if it means that you have to bite onto the roots of a tree until death comes to you and you're in that state. That is what the Prophet ﷺ advised. Not this foolishness that we see and we hear coming from Al-Ikhwan al-Muslimin. Muhammad Hijab, in this regard, we find him vehemently, with passion, defending these principles of Al-Ikhwan al-Muslimin and speaking ill of the methodology of the people of the Sunnah. And he was sick of this, passionately. As far as Ahlul Bid'ah, then we'll bring them in, bring them close. He defends this passionately. Listen to his statement.
The problem, what I'm trying to say, is having a platform where you're giving other
It's the maslaha. If this guy has the skills, we'll bring him in. If the woman has the skills, we'll bring her in. If it's specialist knowledge, we don't care what sector. Even if they're Jew, Christian, I don't give a damn.
I don't give a damn what they are, sect or whatever. If they've got what we need, we'll bring them in. We will bring them in. This is next level ikhwaniyah. Listen to his statement.
No, it's very important, man. We've got to be straightforward about this. Our community is bleeding from within. We have to look at the bigger picture. We have no time for the sectarian thing no more, man.
The community is bleeding from within. We have to look at the bigger picture. We don't have any time for this sectarian thing anymore. So what do we do then with the statements of the Prophet ﷺ? What do we do with the advice of the Messenger ﷺ in relation to the appearance of innovation? إنه من يعيش منكم فسيرى اختلافا كثيرا فعليكم بسنتي وسنة الخلفاء الراشدين المهديين من بعدي. What do we do with these ahadith? Whoever lives long among you will see much difference. So cling to my sunnah and the sunnah of the Khulafa al-Rashideen. What do we do with the verses of the book of Allah? وَلَقَدْ نَزَّلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الْكِتَابِ أَنْ إِذَا سَمِعْتُمْ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ يُكْفَرُ بِهَا وَيُسْتَهْزَأُ بِهَا أَنْ لَا تَقْعُدُوا مَعَهُمْ حَتَّى يَخُوضُوا فِي حَدِيثٍ غَيْرِهِ. That we have revealed to you in the book, that when you hear the verses of Allah being ridiculed and disbelieved in and mocked, that you should not sit with those people until they enter into other speech. What do we do with these verses? And Imam al-Shawkani and Imam al-Qutb have all said that this is a reference to Ahlul Bid'ah. What do we do with these verses? What do we do with these ahadith? What do we do with this strong position that we see clearly coming from the Salaf of this ummah? We exchange that for some methodology that was created in 1928.
Specialist knowledge, we don't care what sector. Even if they're Jew, Christian, I don't give a damn. Most of my teachers in my life have been non-Muslim, so they were homosexual. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn.
So I don't give a damn. Or most of my teachers throughout my life have been non-Muslim, even homosexual. I don't give a damn. Which again establishes clearly that man is Hatib Layl. We mentioned in the first session that Muhammad Hijab is Hatib Layl. That is, he's a man that collects and gathers firewood by night. It was a statement that was used by the Salaf to refer to an individual who takes his knowledge from any source. And they would warn against being and having this characteristic. Hatib Layl. You take your knowledge from anywhere, from anyone, as long as it excites you. And so, this puts without doubt the debates into question. Because it would appear, and if you really look at the debates of this man, that these debates are just debates that are tools of entertainment. And they're just practical exercises in philosophy. Because they don't actually come to a definitive position where this is haqq, that is batil, and you need to leave this because this is the sunnah. It is not enjoining the good and forbidding the evil in its true sense. You'll see, we come to compromise at the end of these debates, and at the end of the debates, all we hear is, well, I've learned and I've benefited a lot from you. And as we have more in common than we would believe. And so Muhammad Hijab, his issue is, we need not an enemy from within, we need an external enemy to attack us from outside. That way, internally, we will unite. This is exactly the methodology of Hassan al-Banna, exactly the methodology of Sayyid Qutb. We need an external enemy to focus upon. That way, we will unite internally.
Well, when the calamity strikes, someone's going to talk about the thing. We need an enemy, but it can't be within. We need an enemy from outside.
Need an enemy from outside. It can't be within. It must be an external enemy.
The best, because then you're forced to unite.
Because then you're forced to unite. Again, this methodology of tajmi', just come together. Just as is the case with the jama'at at-tajmi'iyya. And then he goes on to disrespect the Salaf of this ummah. And disrespect the people of Sunnah who seek to follow that one methodology that still remains. That one methodology that the Prophet ﷺ commanded us to cling to. That one methodology that is the methodology of the haqq. He just refers to it as some silly, nostalgic belief in returning back to the Salaf.
You're not going to be able to solve this problem yourself. And unusual pseudo-references to the Salaf.
Unusual pseudo-references to the Salaf.
A nostalgic idea of returning to the Salaf.
This nostalgic idea of returning to the Salaf.
We have to get ourselves in a position of some kind of standing up position first. We need the guy that unites the people behind them, yeah? And then from that, we can move forward as a Muslim community. We've got to be straightforward about this. Our community is bleeding from within. We have to look at the bigger picture.
We have to look at the bigger picture, bleeding from within and what have you. So clearly the man is ikhwani. Let us call a spade a spade. The man is ikhwani in methodology. The man in relation to his aqeedah, he's not upon the aqeedah of the Salaf of this ummah. In relation to tawheed, we see nothing but batil coming from him. We see him utilizing the methodology of the people of bid'ah of old, Ibn Sina and the likes. In relation to the companions of the Messenger of Allah, we see him not having any type of attitude that is based in the aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah in relation to the companions. This man is poison. All of this, this calamity. Oh, but we love the way he debates. Oh, but this guy's entertaining. Listen then, and we'll round up with the statement of Sheikh Muhammad Aman Al-Jami. Sheikh Muhammad Aman speaks about Al-Ikhwan Al-Muslimun and the methodology of Al-Ikhwan. And this is a beautiful statement, an analogy in relation to the methodology of Al-Ikhwan.
أما الإخوان والمسلمون فأقدم منهم وأوسع منهم باعا وأكثر منهم دعاية لمنهجهم ولحركتهم.
Here he's speaking about the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, and he says that they are, in relation to another group known as a newer group, known as the Sururis or the Saruriya, he said that they are older, that is, Ikhwan al-Muslimin are older than Sururiya, and they're more proficient and they're more active in propagating their methodology and their movement. And then he mentions, he said that they are prevalent among you and they live alongside you.
إلى الإسلام لكن دعوة ليس فيها أي ليست دعوة عملية لا إصلاح ولا أمر ولا نهي ولا إنكار منكر ولا تعليم ولكن تجميع وتجهيز.
He said that their da'wah, they pretend and they feign giving da'wah. They feign calling to Islam. However, their da'wah is not a real practical da'wah, as it contains no rectification, no commanding of the good, no forbidding of evil, no rejection of immorality. And we need to understand what he's saying here, Ikhwan. Because on the face of it, you will say, well, no, I've listened to their lectures and they do command the good and forbid the evil. But you'll find they will leave alone tackling those things that will cause dispute and will cause division. And so they will speak only around topics that we all unite upon and no one has any issue with. Those issues that we have real problem with, and that there are many deviant groups that hold an incorrect position in relation to those things, you'll find them avoiding them in completion. Which is why he's saying that actually they will feign giving da'wah. They'll pretend to give da'wah. It's like Muhammad Hijab. He has all of these debates and these arguments. But what are the fruits of these arguments? What are the fruits of the arguments? What are the outcomes of these arguments? Other than, I use some a few terms, philosophical terms upon you that you're probably not familiar with, and I impress you with my philosophical jargon. But then at the end of it, he walks away exactly the same. He walks away exactly the same. But it's been filmed, and, we're going to get a few more views on this new video. So he mentions there's no rectification. There's no commanding of the good. There's no forbidding of the evil. There's no rejection of immorality or educating. Rather just tajmi', just gathering people and speaking ill of the people of knowledge, and just gathering and looking at numbers. And so he says then, I struck an example of this group in one of my lectures. And this is an example that strikes the difference and highlights the difference between their da'wah and the da'wah of the Salafis. He said a Salafi, this is the example now, a Salafi enters a marketplace and says to the people, Ibadallah, worshippers of Allah, make wudu. Whoever needs to perform ghusl, then do so. Purify yourselves in preparation for the salah, for the prayer, and proceed to the masjid and perform salah. So they begin with tahara and with preparation for salah, and then the salah. That is the Salafi, the Sunni. On the other hand, the Ikhwani, he enters into the marketplace and he says, listen, leave all this, leave all that alone. Forget about all of that. All of you go to the masjid without any condition or restrictions.
الجنوب
The one who's in junub, yani needs a ritual bath, no problem, go.
والحائض
The woman on her menses, the woman in postnatal bleeding, yani the muhdath, the one who needs wudu, all of you, just go.
والمهدد كلكم ادخلوا المسجد.
All of you just go into the masjid. Enter the
ما في
masjid.
داعي لهذه
You're all Muslimun. There's no need for all of these conditions.
الأمور. هذا مثل دعوتهم أي تجميع الناس تحت اسم الإسلام.
That is the example of their da'wah. Just gathering the people under the name, the title, Islam.
بدون تربية بدون تعليم بدون توجيه إسلام.
Without tarbiyah, without real nurturing and education, without directing them, just Islam. Just Muslims, and that is sufficient. And this, in essence, is wasting their Islam.
مسلم وكفى. هذا تضييع وتلبيس.
It is deception. And it is to act upon pretense, act upon pretense.
وغش وعدم النصح.
And it is not advising them.
من غشنا فليس منا. ليست هذه الدعوة.
As Prophet ﷺ said, whoever man ghashana falaysa minna, yani whoever deceives us, then he's not from us. This is not da'wah. Sheikh mentions this is not da'wah.
الدعوة إصلاح. علم الناس الطهارة. علم الناس العقيدة. علمهم شروط لا إله إلا الله.
Da'wah is islah. Teach the people tahara. Teach them to purify themselves. Teach the people how or the conditions of la ilaha illallah. Teach them the wudu. Teach them the prayer. Teach them properly.
وشروط الوضوء والصلاة. علمهم تعليم. الدعوة الإسلامية دعوة تربوية.
The da'wah of Islam is a da'wah of nurturing, teaching.
والغريب في الأمر يكثرون من لفظة التربية.
And he said, what is gharib and strange is that they'll use this term regularly. Tarbiyah. Yani nurturing, education.
وليس لديهم تربية.
And they have no tarbiyah, no education with them.
لا يربوا أبدا.
They never nurture the Muslims, ever.
لكن التربية في كتبهم كثيرة.
Even though this term tarbiyah is in their books regularly and often. And so, that as an introduction to this topic, Ikhwan, is one that we thought was important to mention and to highlight the fact that the man is upon nothing but Ikhwaniyya until proven otherwise. The man is nothing but an Ikhwani fallacy. And with that, Ikhwan, we will round up for this session. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala